Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar. Before we start, please remember to choose your translation option on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Either select Turkish or English as to your preference. So the name of the webinar, Finance and Administration Best Practices for NGOs in Turkey. What we will be doing is we're going to be sharing our knowledge as builder markets in Turkey. And this is the introduction, what you're going to learn webinar after this webinar. So the aim of this course is going to be highlighting the checklist, the steps that should be done if you are an NGO, if you are going to set up an NGO, if you believe you set up as an NGO in Turkey. As builder markets, we've been in Turkey since 2008, and we are registered with tax and SGK and everything. So we have gained a lot of experiences, and so far we've done a really good job, and we feel pretty settled now. So we wanted to share these experiences with everybody. So this is our aim. As builder markets, we have been we are based in New York, and we had quite a few projects all over the world in Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, Myanmar, Afghanistan. So at the moment, we have 3 active projects, one in Turkey, one in Colombia, and another one in Myanmar. And we've worked with quite big donors. As you can see here, at the moment, we work with BPRM. We work with Government of Canada. We work with Skoll Foundation, Coca-Cola, and many others. So we are grateful for the fundings that we received so far. Our mission is small business, big impact. I quickly want to read this. Building markets unleashes the transformational power of small businesses to address pressing social challenges, but driving job creation and inclusive growth. So this is our mission, and we do support small and medium entities, and we do believe that they create big impact for society. Again, when we come to the details of this course, I have divided the course into 4 sections. Section 1 is going to be, we will be mentioning about the external environment and settlement as an NGO in Turkey specific. Number 2 will be the internal environment and settlement. Number 3 is going to be accountability and transparency practice. And number 4 is going to be the sustainable development. So it will be settled, and we will find out how we can remain sustainable. So about myself, my name is Hilal Paksoy. I'm a chartered and certified accountant. I'm a fellow member of ACCA in the UK. And I have a background with a master's degree in accounting and audit, a BSc degree in accounting, and initially I'm an industrial engineer. My professional background includes, my career started in King's College as an assistant management accountant. From there on, I moved my steps to management accountant and senior management accountant in King's College during my 4 years. From there on, I moved to Science Museum. Again, both of these are nonprofit organizations. And then I moved on to another nonprofit, which is Imperial College London. And I've worked as an expert at the Turkish commercial courts in Istanbul for 5 years. And nowadays, I'm the Director of Finance and Administration in Builder Markets. And I've joined Builder Markets in 2008. And I've learned a lot during my time at Builder Markets, which I'm going to share with you guys. So diving into the training. So external environment and settlement, I'm not sure about the participants, whether you are an NGO, already settled NGO, or maybe you will be settling as an NGO. But if you are an NGO here in Turkey already, you can use this as a checklist to say, how you guys doing? Or maybe you do more, so you can share with us. But as to my knowledge, our best practice is this, and I'm going to share them with you. Oops, I'm sorry. Oops, apologies. So, operational duties, part A. Always work with local solicitors. We, as building markets, work with the same solicitors for the past 5 years. It is important to choose a good one, and it is important to walk the way along with them, because it can be really difficult and really frustrating to be an INGO or to be an NGO here in Turkey. There is a lot of regulations that NGOs or INGOs has to comply with. Number 2, health and safety. Always work with a registered occupational health and safety consultant. Again, they will tell you what you need to do. So as long as you trust them and you let them manage you, you'll just be fine. This is important, so you don't get any fines or penalties, etc. As we say always, safety is first. Tax, again, you need to choose a really good chartered accountant. In Turkey, we call them yeminli mali müşavir or serbest muhasebeci and mali müşavir. So work with good ones and try to stick to them so that they get to know your organization, and they will help you along the way if you get through any difficult times with the authorities. SGK registration. Obviously, when you are settled or when you are about to settle, this is one very important item that you need to register with SGK, and you need to pay your employees national insurance. And the other 3 items are tax registration. Again, like this is called vergi levhası. You need to obtain your tax registration through your local tax authority. And please do check if you can have any tax exemptions. Maybe you may be able to get income tax exemption. You may be able to get a VAT exemption. And check this with your chartered accountants, your yeminli mali müşavir, and ensure that if there is anything that you can benefit from, please do benefit from them. And they can be huge savings on your budget. And obviously have a company bank account. So that actually makes you as if you have your identity in Turkey. Without your company bank account, it is so difficult to do anything, to do any of the above. So that is one of the activities in the checklist. So once you are done with all these, operationally, you are done and you are ready to operate as an NGO or an INGO. Continuing with the section B, so you have legal duties as an NGO. So obviously, if you are an INGO, especially international non-government organization, you will need to have a legal representative. We call it yasal temsilci, and that person has to be a Turkish citizen. And it is best if the same person is your employee. Number 2, your CPA, actually, this is interesting, but your CPA gets your karar defteri, your decision ledger. And this is number 1 ledger or number 1 asset for your organization to keep. And you should keep it in a safe and locked place, because if you lose it, if you damage it, it is really problematic. And if you cannot explain how you lost it, how you damaged it, or you deliberately damaged it, there's a huge penalty. And there is also loss of prison sentence after 3 months, which is very rare, but decision ledger, karar defteri, is important. Then we have number 2 ledger, that is evrak kayıt defteri. And you record every single legal documentation that you receive and every single documentation that you send to other authorities in this evrak kayıt defteri. And you need to make someone responsible to keep these records, and that somebody needs to know how to do it, because the order of the recording is important. It can't be done now and then when you feel like doing it, because both of these ledgers, karar defteri and evrak kayıt defteri, decision ledger and document register ledger, they can be audited. And if they want to audit you as an NGO, these are the first 2 ledgers the auditors will ask when they visit you in your workplace. On the decision ledger, I want to show you one best practice that we do as Builder Markets. I'm going to share with you one of the resolutions that we've taken. We have a template that is split in 2 sides, and one side is in English and the other side is in Turkish. As an American NGO, we wanted to ensure that our HQ understands what we have, what we have decided to do in our decision ledger as the legal representative of Turkey. And obviously, this is a Turkish ledger, Turkish book that needs to be written in Turkish too. So this really worked well for us. You may want to do the same, or you may want to choose just to do things in Turkish. So continuing with the legals, we have something called DERBIS, Dernekler Bilgi Sistemi, and that is the registration for the CSOs in Turkey. If you click on this, you probably know these. DERBIS started to be online since last year, and we can, as an NGO, we can actually do our declarations, annual declarations online, which is great. And you can also have other information. So when you come to left side, it says yabancı kuruluşlar, foreign entities, and faaliyet raporu, operational declaration. For example, you will see, sorry, that was the correct year. You will see in 2020, we haven't yet reported, but if you go back to 2021, you'll see that faaliyet raporu onaylanmıştır. So our declaration is approved. And we did everything here in online. So this is Builder Markets declaration for last year. So yeah, if you haven't registered with DERBIS yet, do register with them, and you need to apply to sivil toplum kuruluşu within your city, wherever you are based. If you are in Istanbul, you need to go to Beyoğlu and ask them to help you to get through this. And another legal duty is the VERBIS, Veri Sorumluları Sicil Bilgi Sistemi. So this is the website where all data collected and used during the CSO operations are stored. So CSOs, NGOs must declare all types of data it collects and uses. Turkish authorities are really strict in terms of what sort of data CSOs and NGOs use, what sort of data they collect. Obviously, as a government, as an authority, they have to make sure the safety, information safety also of their people. So this is that. When you come to Verbis, you can also sorgulamak. You can also find out, let's say, what sort of data Builder Markets collects from people during its operations in Turkey. So there you go. We have found Builder Markets. When you click on the
Hilal Hanım, ekran link tıkladığımızda ekranı göremiyoruz. Sadece sunumu görebiliyoruz.
Değil mi? Çok affedersiniz. Tamam. O zaman şöyle yapacağım. Sorry guys, Seda just told me you can't see my screen. So I'm going to stop share and share again very quickly. So make sure you see my desktop. Okay. Can you see KVKK Verbis now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Seda. Apologies, you haven't seen anything before then. I can show very quickly again. So I have looked for Builder Markets. Now, this website tells me the data that Builder Markets collects. Let's say we collect people's IDs, therefore their names, their parents' names, etc., and their contact address, where they live, blah, blah, blah. So this is important. This is important to register with. And again, if you haven't done so, please do so. Please register. I want to quickly show you my decision ledger before we finish this slide, because as I understand, none of you have seen it. So I want to show you Builder Markets decision ledger and last decision we have taken as an example. So this is our decision ledger, the karar defteri. So this is decision number 7, for example. And left side is in English, right side is in Turkish. So that it is beneficial both for English speakers and Turkish speakers. So this is, sorry, I thought we finished the list. Legal things are a little long in Turkey. We have the fund request declarations. You may probably know it is called EG4. So anytime we receive funds from foreign countries, we have to declare them. We cannot use a single lira or single cent without declaring it. So please be careful. Anytime you receive money to your bank account, it becomes available to use, but do not use it before you declare it to your local CSO authority. And we have another declaration that is called EG8, Foreign NGO, Foundation and Nonprofit Organization Declarations. In Turkish, it is called Yabancı Dernek, Vakıf ve Kar Gütmeyen Kuruluş Beyannamesi. Actually, that is what I showed you in Verbis system. Previously, we used to make it in Excel, and we used to print this and declare in person to CSO. But nowadays, it is done via online system. And any declarations, any forms that is related to NGOs or INGOs are under this link. That is www.siviltoplum.gov.tr bildirim ve ekler. So if you go through this, you will see there are many forms that you can download and use for your entity. Not all of them may be related to what you do or your operations. For example, here we only use EG8, EG4, and sometimes EG9, like number 8, 9, and 4. So we don't use anything else. Once you have checked this list, then you are legally compliant with everything in Turkey. So you are operationally settled, you are legally settled. Now it is time to look into internal environment and settlement. So I've divided into parts again. Operational duties. Number 1 is HR and compliance with Turkish regulations, employment law, and importance of wet signature in Turkey, working hours, use of annual leave, sick leave, emergency leave, maternity, paternity, and other mandatory leave. Obviously, every country has their own employment law. Therefore, you need to check the Turkish regulations. You need to ensure that you do not make your staff work beyond the hours that is stated in the law. And if you happen to do so, you need to make sure that they are given time to recover the next day or in the next 2 weeks' time. There are really detailed law and regulations around this. And failing to meet these law can give you headache in the long term. Any employee can turn back and open a court order or court. I'm sorry, I couldn't find the word. They can apply to court, say, oh, they made me work too long. I wasn't able to use my annual leave. I wasn't able to use my other maternity, paternity leave, etc. And unfortunately, wet signature is an important thing when you want to show proof to the courts, proof of evidence to the courts. So if somebody uses annual leave, sick leave, or any other employment rights, you need to ensure that you collect your documentation with wet signature. That applies to payroll as well. There are times as builder markets, we print out the payroll pay slips for 6 months, let's say. My HR person brings me 6 months of my pay slips and she asks me to sign them with wet ink. And I do so, and she files them in her HR cabinet. These are really important to prevent your organization from future disputes at the courts. And work with your CPAs and solicitors on these things. They will let you know what to do, how to do. Number 2 is accountancy and compliance with Turkish regulations. Again, for example, if you make regular payments in timely payments for your national insurance, your SGK, you will receive up to 5% of discounts. And that discount can increase and decrease according to the calculations of the tax authority. Our best practice at builder markets, we always pay SGK as soon as it is available, the number is available, the amount is available for us to pay, and we don't miss a month, and we always get discount on our SGK payments, and that is a huge amount over a year, over a couple of years in the budget. So I strongly advise you to watch that out. Administrative compliance, office registrations, signature tax called tabela vergisi, operational permissions, and event permissions from councils. What I meant here is, for example, as builder markets, we have 3 offices. Obviously, we registered the first office, and then we opened a second office. We need to register that too, and that applies to you guys too. If you happen to have another office somewhere, renting it, making the rental contract is not enough. you need to make sure that you talk to your solicitors, and your solicitors makes the declarations to the necessary authority to say that you also operate in that office. And your admin person, you needs to pay the signage tax if you have a signage in front of your office. Otherwise, you may receive fines and penalties from the local authority. And as many of you know, generally funders do not pay penalties because that is a deficiency in management. So you need to ensure that you prevent any fines and penalties that can happen. And especially the other side of it, like the non-financial side of it, is that you don't want to lose your reputation towards the local authorities by having these fines and penalties. Operational permissions and event form permissions. As NGOs, we do carry out training activities, or we get together with our beneficiaries in hotels, in places. We make trainings, meetings, whatever. Make sure that your event needs to get a permission from council or not. Builder markets, as builder markets, we have a lot of trainings, especially in eastern side of Turkey, in Gaziantep, Şanlıurfa, Hatay, and many of these cities do want a permission if you want to have a training, especially with foreigners in their cities. So each time we make a training in Gaziantep, for example, we used to give a list of participants to the local authority, and we used to obtain their approval before we went ahead and booked it with the hotel. Number 4 is health and safety regulations. Health and safety training for each new starter. That's what we do in builder markets. Each time we have a new employee, we make a meeting with the health and safety officer, and they have a private training. And optional fire drill training you can do as an organization. I strongly advise you guys to do one. It doesn't take long. It is 1 or 2 hours training. It is not expensive, but God forbid, you don't want to be in a situation that you could have prevented by educating people. So do educate your people, and offer your employees a fire drill training. Again, earthquake training, it is optional. You don't have to do it. As builder markets, we did it. Even before the earthquake, the horrible earthquake we had in February, we had 3 or 4 earthquake trainings in the past 2-3 years. Because that is the reality of Turkey. We do get earthquakes, they happen. So we do want to prevent risks. If, anything that can happen, at least, we want to do what we can do our side. And any other health and safety related training related to the area you operate in. Like our health and safety officer gives us the information and regulations that we need to comply with. Maybe your health and safety officer gives you different regulations because you may be operating in a different environment. You may be doing different things. Your employees, for example, may be carrying out heavy things. If you, as an NGO, distribute food boxes, something heavy that your employees have to carry out. So make sure that your health and safety officer directs you how to do what to do with the regulations. Data protection law, KVKK, and personal data protection law. These are the 2 things. These are related to HR. And as NGOs, we need to comply with them. Actually, any company in Turkey has to comply with them. For example, as building markets, we have decided to delete the CVs that are older than 1 year, as per our solicitor's recommendation. So do check with your solicitor whether you comply with this KVKK and data protection law, and also train your employees on how to protect data. So what data is personal, what data is private, how not to share it, like what happens if you share it. So make sure your staff is trained, and put posters in the office to remind them this fact. We do have a couple of posters in our building markets offices, and we do make sure that all our staff is trained on data protection law and personal data protection law. And it's not actually in Turkey only. It is now a world thing. Many countries do have these laws. So it's really important that we comply with them, and we make sure our employees comply with it. Privacy notice and privacy notice on processing employees' personal data. What we do, again, we call it best practice in Turkey, as building markets, sorry. I will show you what we collect from our people. For example, emergency contact privacy notice. What we do when an employee joins building markets, we ask for an emergency contact, their mom's, their husband's name, whatever. So we have this privacy notice, the aydınlatma, to say that as building markets, we collect your personal data and we're going to be using in this and that way. So we obtain their consent so that they don't come back and say, hey, I have given you my parents' information, what you have done with it. If that happens, we're going to be shoving this privacy notice and say, here it is, you have allowed us to collect this data from you, and this is your signature. So make sure you have these type of documentation. This documentation is prepared by our solicitor on our request. So you should do the same. One more I want to show you again, a building markets documentation or fact check. What we do for everybody, like a supplier, owner of the supplier, or employee, whoever joins building markets, whoever gets into a financial contact with building markets, whoever we pay money as building markets, we do make sure that they are checked through OFAC, that is the US state government requirement. And before we collect their personal information, we get this consent from them. We say, for this and that reason, please provide your consent so that we will process your personal data at OFAC, and we obtain their wet-signed consent. So again, I strongly recommend you to do the same. One best practice as building markets, left side is Turkish, right side is English, so that we have everyone can read in their own languages, because we have employees from different countries. And office environment. Ensure healthy office environment for staff. Get your health and safety officer to check your office. Have a first aid cupboard in the office. This is optional, but we do recommend you guys to have one. And obtain documentation from building management on electrical wiring, gas safety. If there isn't any, if your building is a private building, you need to ensure that you bring some registered electrician, gas safety officer to check them and give you the papers to say this place is safe to stay in, to live in, to work in. Again, you want to prevent your organization from any sorts of accidents, any sorts of legal disputes, and this is important. And once you've gone through this list, operationally, you are completely fine, and you won't be getting into any troubles with anyone. Oh, one more safety: the building insurance, office in an earthquake-proof building, national insurance of all, for example, cleanliness. So what we mean here is like building insurance. Again, if you are renting in a building, make sure you get a copy of the insurance from your building management. If it is a private building, you need to go to an insurance company and buy a building insurance. And nowadays, earthquake is very recent, and as building markets, we checked our offices, and for example, we decided to move one of our offices. Do check your buildings, do check your offices. Ensure that they are earthquake proof. Ensure that they are new. They have the report from the authorities. And national insurance of all. We do have national insurance for our employees, but we want to make sure that anyone who gets into our office to work, for example, to bring us tea, coffee, or to clean the offices, as an organization, you have to make sure that those people are also insured. For example, the person may not be working for you, but she may be cleaning your offices, and you may be paying to her directly in hand or through a company. You have to make sure that person is registered with SGK. We do have cleaning companies. We work with cleaning companies, but time to time we do ask for the SGK documentation of the cleaners that come to our office and work in our office, because if they happen to have an accident in the office, the responsible, it would be ourselves, like building markets. So same for you guys. And that is it. That is the operational duties as an NGO. Some of these are just applied to any company in Turkey, but being an NGO can be a bit more difficult, a bit more regulated. So now, being a CSO or NGO, I want to ask a question to the participants. In your mind, what do you think? What principle is the most important when working with a CSO? If you were a funder, if you wanted to make a donation to a CSO or NGO, what would you want to see from them? And if you have any ideas, guys, please do write it in the chat. Maybe as a word, maybe as a sentence. So I'm going to give 1 minute for any participation. I'm going to give you a clue, little clue, some balloons. See if that rings any bells. The most important thing, like, what do you expect from a CSO to be like? How do you expect an NGO to be like? What do you want to see from them? How do you want them to be? If you were to give your money to them, let's say you want to fund your $10 a month to an NGO. Hey, you've got one message. Experience. Good. That's cool. Thank you. Yes, I mean, we do want them to be experienced. We want to make sure that our money is spent by good hands. What else? Transparency. Yes, that is it. Actually, that was the main answer. I mean, there are many answers to this. Obviously, we may expect a lot, but thank you, Nurhal. Accountability and transparency. So these are the transparent balloons I put in there. So accountability and transparency is the most important thing for the CSOs, for the NGOs. Why is that? Let's read this. Accountability and transparency of CSOs and members, their accountability and perceptions of the accountability are critical to their effectiveness as either independent development actors or program implementers on behalf of members, because there are many members that they do. Yes, legal and accountability. Hello, Abdullah. Thank you. Yes. Part of the answer came from Nurhal and the other part came from Abdullah. Thank you, guys. Yes, accountability and transparency. So we have to be responsible for anything, every single money that we spend. So NGOs are no more immune to corruption than companies in other sectors. Like everyone is immune to, everyone can, get into corruption. But for development organizations, it can be especially harmful and have a knock-on effect on reputation, funding, and donations. What happens? Imagine you are a private company and you do produce something, manufacture something, and you sell that, and you are corrupted. Next day, you do make a financial loss, and then you start producing again, you start manufacturing again, and you start earning again. Now, on the other side, come and become an NGO, come and become a CSO who gets their funding from the funders, donors, taxpayers, authorities, and you are corrupted. What happens next day? You don't get funding. You have your reputation is damaged, is demolished, is harmed. Your funding will stop. Your donation will either decrease or even maybe stop. And bang, that's the end of the life for an NGO or a CSO, and you don't want to get into that. So as NGOs, as CSOs, as nonprofit people, finance and admin people that work in this nonprofit environment, we have to be extra careful than any other finance admin people that work in other sectors, other private sectors. And my last paragraph, it says, this is a significant issue, like the corruption. An estimated of $17 billion was spent on humanitarian work in 2011. And without proper strategies in place, accountability can be difficult. Corruption, which includes nepotism, bribery, fraud, kickbacks, and double funding, can divert resources, feed conflict, and increase the basic costs of services for the poor, undermining the very work of NGOs. So obviously, if there is any corruption, any fraud, bribery, blah, 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 we don't have any, we have less money to divert to the poor, right? So that is something that we have to be very careful as NGOs and CSOs. And it is a huge amount of money that is spent in humanitarian work. And we have to, like all NGOs, all CSOs, we do aim to make the most for the society. So we have to be accountable. We have to be transparent. So now the question, who do we need to be accountable and transparent to? Why do we need to be accountable? Who's the person that we have to prove ourselves to? So I want to see some answers in the chat. I had other answers. Trust, humanitarian. Yeah, trust and humanitarian for the previous question. Thank you, Nisha. Thank you. I can't see the name. They are also true. Yeah, safeguard. Tamar said donors. Yes. Yes. And Abdullah said donors because we get the money from them. Number one, donors. All stakeholders. Makin. Yes, all stakeholders. Who are they? Get into details. More answers. Government, Nisha, yes. We have to be transparent to government also. They have to know what you are into, what you are about to do, what the heck you do. I'll tell you something, one experience. Safeguard, beneficiaries, yes, absolutely. Beneficiaries. Any other question? Any other answer? Employees, donors, local authorities. Perfect. Makin, thank you. Yep. More. I think there were 6 or 7 that I could think of. Maybe there are even more. Stakeholders, all stakeholders, who are they? Local authorities, they want to know what the heck you're about, what the heck you do. There are some organizations under name of NGO CSO that, they title them as, but they don't really aim to help society or anything. So local authority has to screen them and ensure that they really are CSOs and NGOs. Okay. I think with the oruç, fasting, this is as good as we could get, but thank you. I appreciate it. Taxpayer, because donor gives us some money, and if the donor is a public donor, the money they give us is the taxpayers' money, which is everybody, everyone that lives in a country. So the donor, public donor especially, the governments, for example, they have to be transparent to the taxpayer. For them to be transparent to their taxpayer, we have to be transparent to the donor and also accountable. Number 3, beneficiaries. Yes, they want to make sure that they can trust you so that they will become your network. Number 4 is your partners or potential partners, the other organizations that may want to work with you or that work with you already and participate in your activities. Government and local bodies, we already said that, came through chat. Society, let's say we are an INGO, Build the Markets is an INGO in Turkey. And Turkish people want to make sure, they want to understand what Build the Markets do. They want to make sure that Build the Markets do something good for Turkey, for Turkish people, not only for other people or whatever. So they want to make sure that their country is in good hands. Number 7, I put, as one of you guys said, other stakeholders. It can be media, it can be private sector that may want to get in contact with you. So yes, we need to be accountable and transparent. There are a couple of NGOs that I know, can't remember their names, Danish something, for example. I think Danish Aid, maybe. They make a report on accountability and transparency. So they make an accountability report every year. And they sign it by their board members, which I think is a good practice, great practice, and there is social media. Yes, social media, that's true. I also think that that's a great practice. As builder markets, we haven't started doing it, but maybe we'll be one of the first NGOs to do that. I'm very interested in making an accountability and transparency declaration reporting in our annual report. Would be lovely, and I do advise that anyone who can do it to do it. Another question: how do we achieve accountability and transparency in finance administration? So we have decided that, okay, we have to be accountable and transparent because of these and these people. Now, how do we do it? I want you guys to think very broadly, like go to the top level, like don't get into details. So I want to say, like, one answer: how do we achieve, like, how we need to be like to achieve accountability and transparency? What sort of a person I need to be to achieve this? What sort of an organization I need to be to achieve this? Think the organization like a person. You say, this person is, Ahmed is so ... How do you need to be like to achieve accountability and transparency? Come on, guys. Go on. Through contracting with independent party. That's good. Maybe a monitoring party to check on you and say, oh yes, these guys are transparent and accountable. But this is an action that you need to do. Like, yeah, you need to be honest and fair. That is close, Nisha. Maybe by right job, yes. Like, to be the right person in the right position, right? That's true. But one broader answer, there is one very broad answer, very broad. And I believe that this needs to be taught as a lesson in the schools. Regular records, reports, that's true, so that you can prove, thinking Nurhal, you can prove that you are accountable and transparent. Okay. These are good. These are parts of the answers. So I'm going to go back to the tip of the iceberg. Ethics, number 1. Number 2, ethics. Number 3, ethics. So you have to be ethical to achieve accountability and transparency. So you have to have integrity, moral, you have to have value, you have to honor, you have to ensure in your choices, you need to be fair, you need to be responsible, you need to be concise, you need to be honest, blah, blah, blah. So ethics, it has a lot, and your answers do fall into this. So we need to be ethical as an organization. Since most NGOs spend funds and do not earn revenue, the most important tool is budget management. Therefore, have to spend the funds. Now, as an NGO, as a CSO, we do get funds. Like, that is our only way of having the money in. And how we spend the money is important. So I say, my humble advice: train your finance and procurement staff on ethics, principles, and responsibility of spending taxpayers' money. Like, anyone in finance, anyone in procurement, and from there on, these are number 1 people. On the number 2, everyone in the company. They have to realize that they are spending taxpayers' money. This is like anyone who's walking on the street, like anyone who buys bread and for 8 lira and has to pay extra 2 lira for the tax. So this is their money. This is not our money that we spend. So we have to be ethical. Like we should have the moral to know this fact, and we should feel it. And then I say implement an environment throughout the company where every staff understands the 3E principles and acts accordingly. What is 3Es? I didn't write it. Yes, believe in it. Yeah, you have to believe it. You have to believe that. You have to believe your actions, right? That you have X amount of money, you have to get these done with that money. 3Es. What is 3E principles, guys? You're going to spend your money. You have $10 million. You will be spending them on this and this and that. Or you have $10 and you have to buy pencils. What sort of pencil you buy? What is the principles you go through when you are purchasing? Or maybe you are a staff. You don't need to be a finance person, but you are allowed to make expenses and claim it afterwards. 3Es. Come on, guys. I'm sure you know it. You need to be that. You need to be that. You need to be that. Like your purchase has to be 1. Efficient, I tell it. Number 1, it has to be efficient. What you buy needs to meet your need, right? If you need a pencil, you need a pencil. And you want to buy an okay quality of a pencil. You don't go for the luxury pencil. You don't go for the rubbish that will go to the bin. Yes, economic, correct. Efficient. And it needs to be effective, right? One more. So buy me a pencil. How can you? Well, actually, I told it, right? So we said, I'm checking myself, efficient. So economic, good value, and effective. And effective. In the end of the day, it gives you what you were looking for. So you may be a finance person, procurement person. So you look for as if you buy it to your own house. You don't say, oh, we have the money, we have the best, we can buy the best quality. You don't say, okay, I'm going to buy this and I can replace it next year. No, it's taxpayers' money. We do want to make the most of it. So you want to optimize these 3Es, and fulfill the needs. Exactly. So that is important. And this training needs to be given to everybody in the organization. So, as a final comment, the ground rules for good ethics in procurement are simple enough. So what you do is practice integrity, avoid conflicts of interest and personal enrichment, treat suppliers equally and fairly, and comply with legal and other obligations. So integrity, as we just talked, by all people, all staff, avoid conflict of interest and personal enrichment. You know what that means. And you want to treat the suppliers equally and fairly. We can't be just like, oh, this supplier is good. Okay, we're going to be working with them again this year. No. You need to evaluate again this year. Maybe there is another supplier who will give you the same service with lesser amount. So you want to stay at an arm's length, as they call it. You have to stay at an arm's length to all suppliers, and you need to treat them equally and fairly. And obviously comply with legal obligations and other obligations so that you don't get fined and stop your operations. So, final part in accountability and transparency practice, how we do it at Builder Markets. Again, this is like humble opinion, like humble advice, and just sharing finance and admin experience in Builder Markets, at Builder Markets. Procurement policy, that is what we have. We have a procurement policy. In that procurement policy, there's no harm in me sharing it with you on the screen. The last updated 2020. It is still valid. Procurement and expense. It's a long 15-page of documentation. So we have the purpose of procurement, guiding principles, planning, evaluation and analysis, award and monitoring, close out. Methods, in the procurement methods, we say, if you are buying a cheap thing up to 5 TL, like not 5 TL, there's nothing to 5 TL, but let's say, I don't know, $500, there's a different method. Up to from $500 to $5,000, we have to obtain 3 quotations, 3 legal quotations that came through emails. And it's not like, oh, I talked to a company and he said $3,000. No, this is not a procurement. You have to get it in writing through your email so that you can show it to your auditors, who will believe that it is a true quotation that you obtained. And if we are spending anything more than $25,000, for example, $25,000, we go for an open tender. We advertise an open tender in many websites, and we invite suppliers to apply to the procurement. And then we make an evaluation, and we have an evaluation panel. It is not only one person who evaluates, like he said, okay, I like this. No, there's a panel of 3 or 5, whoever, depending on the subject. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure many of you do have a procurement policy. If you don't have one, have one. If you do have one, make sure that it is updated, make sure that it is usable, make sure that it is used by your finance persons. Like they have to read it truly and embed it to their soul to ensure that they can actually implement it while working. So we have full open competition, limited competition, sole single source. There are times that you cannot find anyone else to do the work, which is fine, but then you need to document it. Somebody who knows the subject, say, hey, as Builder Markets, we've decided to purchase this, and the cost is supposed to be or estimated to be 26K or 7K dollars. And unfortunately, we were not able to find any supplier to work in this. So therefore, I'm selecting company XYZ on this job. And then do get it signed either with a wet signature or through the Adobe with a date on it, so that there are responsibles, and make sure that it's not only one person. And especially it is not the person that sits on the money. Which means I'm the finance director, for example. I have the bank account, I manage the bank account, and I make sure that I'm not the one selecting the supplier. I cannot select a supplier and pay them all in one hand. Then I can't be I can't. It's hard to prove your accountability to others. They may think, oh, wow, you selected a supplier and you paid it. You don't want to get into that. So you want to make sure that someone else, for example, my manager or somebody in the program, do give me the go ahead and I make the payment. Approval matrix. We have approval matrix to say, I'm going to show it to you. This is an approval matrix. So I'm not going to make it bigger because there are names in it. But up to 1,000, somebody approves it. Up to between 1,000 and 5,000, other people review and approve it. From 5,000 to 25,000, somebody else. And if it is over 25,000, then it is the CEO and Chief Executive Officer, Chief Operating Officer, whatever. So every year, for every different project, we make a different approval matrix. You may have one only that you want to use, which is fine, but do have an approval matrix. When the donors come to visit your office, when you get auditors from the donor side, these things should be the ones that you guys are going to put on the table to say, see, this is updated in 2020, and it is valid, and this is my most recent approval matrix. So you gain their trust. And number 3, open and fair tender progress. So if you are going to make a big purchase, you have to be open, you have to be fair. Like everybody wants to get into expensive jobs. So we use, again, our best practice, Building Markets best practice, supply evaluation form. Normally, this is prepared on an Excel sheet, on a spreadsheet. So, for example, with evaluation of photography service, we have 3 suppliers. We have how much they have quoted, and underneath, I cannot make this bigger. I can make this bigger. So I've said following evaluation of the service, below are the conclusions. Because of this and this and this and this and that, according to the price offers, and we based our evaluation on economical value and service quality. So from the 3 E's, we used economy and effectiveness this time around. And we have chosen one service provider for services. Sometimes you go for the expensive one because you want to make sure that you get what you pay for. You can't always go for the cheapest one. But as long as you explain it, and I forgot to show it, but it is signed by people, by 3 employees, and there's a date on it. It's not only myself. It's not only country director. It's one or more than 1, 2, 3 people that signs it, and that makes a proper audit evidence. Audit evidence has to be sufficient and acceptable. So this evidence do suffice, and that is acceptable, perfectly acceptable by the auditors. And recruitment process, obviously, it's not always purchasing. There are times we do get employees to work for us. And again, we make sure that we document every interview. It is documented. I've talked to this person, vacancy was this, panelist was this, and this is our form. It can be any, you can use your own form. But we say, this is the questions that we ask to the person, their experience, their skills, interview questions, interviewers' notes, like the managers who was doing the hiring, and then, reject or hire. So this guy said hire, and it is signed by somebody Actually, it is signed by two people in this case, and it is date. This is a like there are two more, at least two more, maybe five more forms like this for the same position, and the other four will show rejection, and one will show higher. If you were audited, you put them on the table, bang, you perfectly done. This is a fair recruitment process, and you can prove it. Travel authorization forms. Obviously, we do travel a lot. I did want to mention this experience in the other slides. I forgot that. I'll tell you my experience with a government person in Ankara. We went to visit the CSO office, the CSO head office in Ankara, and we met the CSO manager. And one of the questions he asked me was like, "Oh, you are the finance person?" He said. I said, "Yes." "What is your budget?" And I told our budget. And he said, "What percentage of the budget do you pay for travel?" So as a nonprofit person, I know this question is like a very common audit question. So I'm ready for it. I said, not much, directly, not much, a small percentage. You cannot go like, oh, okay, 3.7%. You don't know. But to gain trust of the other side, like it is observed by, like it's a common perception that they may think, oh, non-for-profit, they collecting money, they do meetings, they go to hotels and they travel, there is this perception. Why this perception happened, that's a different question, but there is a perception like this. And auditors who do audit nonprofits, NGOs, do take a look at this. They want to make sure that the taxpayer money is spent for the program. It is not spent for the travel of people. So ensure your travel is needed and it is for the program. For building markets, we have travel authorization forms. So anybody travels somewhere, they have to get an authorization before they go anywhere. It's a very detailed form because we also use it as a finance tool. But if somebody wants to go to Gaziantep from Istanbul on the state early in the morning, when I come back in the evening, and he thinks the total cost of the flight is $110. And then this person is going to claim per diem, and he estimates it's going to be $125. And then the person is going to stay in the hotel for 7 nights. That is a total of $490. Airport transfer, whatever. So it is $785. It's a lot of money, guys. So somebody has to see this, not only one person. We say, this is the requester. Let's say Ahmed wants to go somewhere and it's going to cost $700. So my person, Neshe, on the finance coordinator, and Devrim, one of them actually checks the effectiveness of this visit. Like she thinks, oh, okay, like Ahmed goes to Gaziantep. She knows why. If she doesn't know why, she turns back and asks. The other person checks the formulas, calculations, and initially approved by the country director. So like Bora in our case says, okay, it is worth spending $700 and he can go. So this is one tool we use, and I believe it is a good tool, and I advise you guys to have a similar one. And final note, documentation for compliance. Use signed PDF, not a file, memo, hard copy of invoices, and panel decisions. So you can document everything. You can write in Word file, Excel file. It is not an evidence. Word file, as in words, is not an evidence. You have to convert it to a PDF and sign it, and then it becomes an evidence, because evidence should not be able to be changed. It cannot be changed, so that it becomes more reliable. I mean, you can get away with a Word document, but auditors will go like, when did you create this? So it is not really a sufficient evidence in that case. Not to file memos, as I say, there are times that you cannot follow the procedures. This is live and it's not perfect. So you just write a not to file, say, hey, this is that and that, and we have decided this and that. So, and get it signed by somebody in the organization. Invoices, always keep hard copy of the invoices. But here in Turkey now we have e-invoice, like e-archive system. So e-archive system. Everything is in the on the electronic system, which is fine. But if you have invoices from foreign entities, always keep hard copies. What is next? The tools we use at Builder Markets. Very simple. We have QuickBooks. This is our accounting tool, and this is online. So I can use it in Turkey. My mate, my other finance person, colleague, can use it in the States. She enters New York side, I enter Turkey side. This is a really good tool I advise for multinational small entities. You need to be small to use it. We use something called Expensify for our expense management. This is a new tool that we have implemented in Builder Markets. It's been 2 or 3 months, but it works okay. So we approved it. It works for us. It may work for you. So take a look at it. Quickly, I'll show you what it looks like. It's a very simple tool that, like, I used a taxi. I took a photo of it and I used, I put the description and I save it. So each time I have a taxi receipt, I do the same. And there is a time that I submit it end of the month and it goes for approval, and everything happens on this website. So you do have a login account. It's very easy, very simple. It works. And this works with QuickBooks. So when I enter something here, it is approved by my manager, it feeds into QuickBooks. So that is great. So it saves some time. And Adobe Pro, obviously. You can use DocuSign. That is also good. That's also cheap. But as I say, you need to create some PDF version of audit evidence. So these are 3 tools: easy, simple, and I believe we are very compliant towards the auditors and donors. Financial controls, obviously, another tool. We have monthly financial reporting. So every month, I record the actuals on my budget, and I do analyze the variances. Like if we spent more than the budget, if we spent less than the budget, I say on personnel, we are overspent. And I go back to my managers, I go back to the country director and I say, listen, please see the variance analysis for the last budget versus actual. And we are overspent on this line, we are underspent on this line. So, and I give recommendations. I may say, can we recruit somebody? And if and I say the amount of the budget is this 40K, and country director, if he has any project in mind, he then can decide and say, okay, why don't we recruit a coordinator, program coordinator next month? So this is a two-way discussion every month that we do. And once I sort out the variance analysis, I do the financial projection. So what I said here, monthly and quarterly financial reports provide management with information to monitor budget resources and activities. Yeah, I mean, we, by the end of quarter one, I knew that we were 15% underspent, but we knew the reason for it. We knew that there were some delays in some supply contracts or some SGA contracts. So we then decided, okay, in the next quarter, we have to make sure that these are all kicked off, all contracted, and we make sure that we spend it. One other thing is that you want to stay in your budget, but you don't want to be underspent, non-profit rule. You don't want to be underspent. Why? If you are underspent this year, there are two reasons. One, either you haven't done what you were supposed to be doing, you haven't achieved your goals. That is a, no thing. Two, if you have achieved your program goals and you are still underspent, that means that initially you over budgeted. And donors will not enjoy this. They won't like it. They'll say, okay, you don't know how to make a budget. You don't know how much you spend. And next time around, they may actually give you less funding. So you want to make sure you make proper budget, and you can't be overspent anyway, but you don't want to be too much underspent. You want to, your ideal case is to be very close to your full budget. Budget versus actual monitoring, analyzing the variances, advising management on expenditure plan, and updating financial projection should be part of the monthly financial report. And that is what we do in Builder Markets. Every month, we close the month on the accounts. We get the reports, financial report. We have the budget, and we have the actual for the month, and we have the totals, to date expenditure. And then we advise the management to say, hey, you spent too much on travel. Is there a chance that we can reduce it in the following months? And the country director may say, okay, how much money I have, then he decides, maybe some travel plans can be taken off the list. And the projection. For the projection, every month, once my variance analysis is done, I look at the next months and I say, okay, this is how much I'll be spending for the rest of the year. And if I have any questions, I ask the country director and other program people to see, their expectations, and I update my financial projection. So as the money is spent, BVA is updated to reflect how much was spent, how it was spent, and what it obtained. Obviously, you guys know that you do provide financial report along with the project report, the program report to the donors. And they do ask you how much you spent and how it was spent, and you have to relate it with your program KPIs and goals. And this is really it on the financial controls. Do you have any questions with the financial controls, with the financial tools? And my other advice to you, if you want to ensure your effectiveness with your tools, with the ways that you do things, do reach out to other NGOs, other CSOs, ask them how they do, what tools they use. And it is totally okay to share these. I remember there was a very newly set up American NGO And one guy contacted me who was going to be their finance manager. And he asked me what we use as an NGO, as an American NGO in Turkey. And I, connected with him over an hour. And I showed him how we use QuickBooks, how it worked for us, etc. In the end of the day, they are an NGO. They don't have a lot of money to spend, like to get consultancy on these things. So do share with others if you believe that you have good practices, and ask others if you think that you want to, screen your operation. I think there isn't any questions. I'm coming towards the end of my presentation. My last part is a sustainable development. So everything is fine. So far so good. Now it comes like, how are we going to remain to be sustainable? HR, keep your best employees. Create an environment where loyalty comes first. Cliche. Provide training to your employees that can help them better achieve their jobs. Allow them to choose their training subjects, but ensure it is related to the work they perform so that they remain connected. It doesn't go from you to them saying, hey, train yourself on this. It might make the person feel underestimated. Oh, am I not good enough? But when you ask them to say, do you want to choose a training for yourself? Choose it and I'll pay for it. That is a more proactive and really motivating way of developing your HR. Provide an environment where your employees can achieve more. Consider job rotations. Job rotation is this, I'm the training person, the other person is the finance person. I mean, not all jobs can be rotated, but some can. Like, I don't know, maybe a program advisor, program officer can work on the M&E for a month. So she learns what M&E is like. That actually improves the empathy towards each other. So you know how the other guy is working and why, they ask certain questions to you, why they behave in certain ways. And also, if you happen to lose your employees, then you have spare persons who knows at least 50%, 10%, some percentage of the job. So job rotation is a really good tool to use. And it will ensure your staff is kept entertained, they learn more, that is also good for them. And they have more to write their CVs, so they are more satisfied and they will stay with you guys longer. On the finance, to be sustainable, keep an eye on the financial developments such as inflation and FX rates. I start my day with them, with like watching out the dollar inflation and FX rates, and regularly make benchmarking practices. What I mean with regularly make benchmarking practices, like check your salaries, for example, check your office space, like, what other people pay. So ensure that you don't spend more, maybe something cheaper become available. And build a business development team to ensure continuous funding and invest in fundraising activities. Yes, we have money today, but we have to think for the future. So we have to, invest in business development team. And calculate your organization's worst case scenario and the amount of funds to survive for 6 to 12 months while keeping your core employees. So let's say you have like building markets, again, our practice. We have a project for Turkey until September. After September, we do predict that we will have another project. But let's say in the worst case scenario, we don't have a project. We don't want to shut down. So I have calculated worst case scenario, and I, with the country director and other program people, in that worst case scenario, we're not doing any program activities, but we are keeping our core personnel for 6 to 12 months. I say, okay, I'm keeping one person in training. I'm keeping one person in business development. I'm keeping one person as in matchmaking. I'm keeping one person in finance, one person in HR. So I'm keeping core people who then can remain and stay on standby. And when the funds become available again, they can easily expand. Like the business development person can easily recruit 2 more people and easily train them. And up in 1 month's time, we are back in operations. So worst case scenario, 6 to 12 months, and keep that money. You know, if your budget is $200,000, ensure in your core accounts, in your central accounts, non-project accounts, you have $200,000 so that you can survive. Administration, always work with a reputable solicitor and reputable accountant who's knowledgeable within the sector you operate in. Keep in contact and require from them to inform you on recent regulatory changes. Get your internal audit done half yearly. So building markets best practice. We do ask our solicitor to make an internal audit every 6 months for us. They come and they, like yesterday, they did an internal audit on data privacy and on HR files. The other 6 months, they did something else. So they ensure that we are auditable. And again, our accountant, Building Markets, has a CPA. They work with a CPA, YMM, Yeminli Mali Müşavir in Turkey. We work with them. And every 6 months, they come to our office and they check our documentation. Like if they may say, okay, like we put too much money into KKKB, like kanunen kabul edilemeyen giderler, KKG, like legally unacceptable expenses. You know, there are times that they have to put some expenses into that account, but as an NGO, our accountants say we don't want to have too much going on in that account. So have these kind of feedback from them and operate accordingly later on. Hire and keep an admin staff who can remain in contact with authorities and follow the local and national regulations such as signage, tax, health and safety regulations, etc., to avoid unexpected penalties and fines that can disturb your operations and finances. Like NGOs do have KPIs, we have goals, aims to do in 1 month, to do, to achieve in 1 year, 3/4, whatever. Then we do get so focused with the program staff, but then suddenly you can have a, stupid penalty because of health and safety regulations. Somebody has an accident and you may end up in the court. You may end up with some fines. Then you will get busier, you will get out focused, and your program has to pay for it, which is not good. So always have one person, one admin staff. It doesn't have to be managerial level, but someone responsible who will watch these out regularly. Business development, ensure a dedicated team member or members attend external activities with other CSOs, NGOs, local authorities, and municipalities. Ensure you follow your stakeholders through their social media and remain in their communication list so you know what is going on in the outside world. Community building and information sharing. Build a community where you share your information with others, such as local CSO directorate. Keep in close contact with them, follow and attend their events, and ask your questions directly to them. They are pretty good in supervising and helping. Keep in contact with CSOs, meet them informally, attend their events, obtain their best practices, and create a collaborative environment. So if we share our information with each other, then we don't have to pay for the consultants. Obviously, we do need some consultants at some point, but knowledge sharing is important in nonprofit organizations. And keep close contact with solicitors and CPAs again to ensure you comply with regulations and all that. So, you know me already. And I just want to thank you guys all because we are over the time. And we have a message from Seda. We ask for your opinion. So she sent a link in the chat. If you can, please fill that report or survey. It will be really good for us. This is it from me, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nurhal. Thank you, Nesha. Thank you, everybody. So apologies for being over the time. If you have any questions, do share it with me on my email. I'm going to write my email here in the chat. Thank you, Tamar. As I say, you can always reach out and ask, or if you have anything better than we have, please do tell us and we can improve ourselves. It's a two-way thing. Appreciate all of your participation. Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you, Makin. So, okay then. Take care, guys. Have a good day and happy Ramadan to all of you. I forgot to say. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I just want to say bye.